Welcome to the Dr. Wyatt Show, where developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve, and following my 6 marriage steps is a path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, a licensed psychologist specializing in marriage counseling. The Dr. Wyatt Show is listener-supported, so to help keep it on the air so couples worldwide can receive hope for their marriage, please consider becoming a monthly supporter by going to patreon.com/Dr. Wyatt Show. So today we have a special interview with a couple that's been watching and listening to the Dr. Wyatt Show. And so we're going to hear their story. We're going to listen to what they've been through, how they've recovered their relationship. And hopefully it's going to inspire a lot of you listening, because all of us want to feel like we're not alone. And when we go through challenges and struggles, which we all do in marriage, it's nice to know you're not alone. So it's wonderful to hear from other couples. So welcome, you guys. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, sure. So if you guys wouldn't mind, just go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us where you live and how long you've been together, whatever you want us to know.
Okay. Well, we met about 4 years ago. I was finishing. My name's Ashley.
And I'm Marlo. And we live in Sedona, Arizona.
Okay. Yep. So you're south of me. How warm is it there today?
Well, the snow's melting. We had a snowstorm.
You have snow there. That's surprising.
A lot.
We got snowed in yesterday.
Wow. Is that common?
No.
Okay.
But the school's closed for 3 days now.
Okay. So how much snow does it take in Sedona to close things down?
I mean, I think we got
not a lot.
Yeah, I think we got like close to 8 inches. So.
Oh, that's more than we got. I'm in Colorado and we got like 1 inch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I used to live in Texas in high school, and in Texas, if it was calling for like 3 inches of snow, they would shut everything down and everyone would stock up on groceries.
What part?
Tyler, Texas.
Okay, we moved here from Texas.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, where in Texas?
Well, we were in Corpus Christi just for a little while, but before that, Dallas. For a long time.
Nice. Yeah, my dad still lives in Tyler, and then my mother-in-law lives in Houston. And then I have friends sprinkled around Texas, so I often say I'm part Texan and part Coloradoan.
Yeah. But I don't want to ever go back to Texas.
No, we love it here.
You're glad to be in Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So first question, how did you guys meet and how long have you been together?
We met online. She wrote me.
It's like an online dating app or something?
No. Actually, we have like mutual friends kind of, but like we never really met or hung out, but she wrote me actually on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was about 4 years ago. I was in Dallas visiting my family, almost done with nursing school. So went up to see them before my last semester, and we met, and then she moved back with me to Corpus so I could finish up nursing school. And then we lived there for a couple years, got married after 2 years of being together, and then we moved here about a year ago.
Awesome. So are you both nurses or in the medical field?
No, I'm a photographer.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. How's it been being in the medical field, Ashley, for you with COVID?
Very busy. I work in hospice, so we've had a lot of patients come home from the hospital with COVID and stuff, but it's starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Wow. That must be really intense work, working in a hospice.
Yes. I work a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't even understand it.
Yeah, that's hard to fathom, the emotional energy that must require.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what kind of photographer are you, Marlo?
Like candid, but I transfer photos onto wood.
Onto what?
Onto wood.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
It's kind of like a long process, but I mean, I could grab one and show you. But it's sort of Mod Podge. sorry, the dog.
She's going crazy.
It's Mod Podge, and you let it dry, but just the like picture stays on the wood. No paper. It's like paper. It starts out as paper. I print it, and then no paper's left. Just the actual picture, like the ink goes onto the wood, so it looks really cool.
That's neat. Yeah. So how long have you guys been married now?
2 years.
Okay, you've been married 2 years. So this is a pretty new relationship.
Yeah. We never had like the beginning part though.
What do you mean?
It was just really stressful in the beginning. That's kind of like, we never really had like the honeymoon period.
Okay. You just jumped right into the trenches.
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically.
So here, that leads to the second question. So what is some of the best advice you've ever received about marriage?
I didn't see this question, but the best advice, I mean, we tried therapy like twice, and obviously communication, which I am not good at. I'm better now, but I was not good at before, and I didn't really understand why communication was needed. So that's always the main advice that we get from people. I just didn't know how to accomplish that. It's easy to say you need to communicate, but you don't really know what that means. It's kind of hard to do it.
And you really don't know, like, marriage is so much work.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you say it before, like, oh, it's work, but it's like a real job.
Yeah. Is this your first marriage for you guys, or your second, or third?
First marriage.
First for both of you. Okay. And have you guys gone through any training before getting married on how to have a good marriage?
No, so that would be good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty common. I mean, most of us get zero training, and we're in love, so we think everything's going to be easy, but it takes training.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always knew like I wanted to like be married, and I only want to be married once. But once you started, it's really hard if you don't really if you're not completely sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ashley, you mentioned communication. How are you defining that word? That gets tossed around a lot, like communication. What comes to your mind when you say that?
I mean, communication, period. Communicating needs, wants, just communicating in general. That's kind of hard for me to do, even though I do it all day at work. I've never been one to really be like talk about my feelings or anything like that. I kind of just keep it all to myself. Like, I didn't really know what the point was. But so
and if you do something wrong, she doesn't tell you that either.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that can happen. Do you kind of just stuff it down or sweep it under the rug?
Yeah, because I'm just like kind of like whatever person.
Well, it probably comes in handy being a nurse, right? Where you kind of stuff down what you feel and just you have to be resilient.
Yeah.
But then in a personal relationship, that can come back to haunt you.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. So let's see here. Number 3, what's the toughest thing you guys have faced in your marriage, and what lessons did you learn?
I don't know if we agree on this one.
Yeah, it can be different for each of you. We each face different challenges.
Well, we moved here because this is a really weird thing, but we had mold in the luxury apartment that we lived in. It was super stressful.
And Corpus?
Kind of made us crazy.
Wow. Like the mold is impacting like your mental health, the mold and
definitely. Yeah.
Wow.
Completely. And so we basically moved here. We had never seen it here or anything. And that was just so stressful. I can't even like put into words. And then also kids.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing. We have 2 kids. One I had previously, but whenever I went to Dallas and when we met, it was kind of like a little vacation for me. So it wasn't really like what my life was. I was a single mom and in school, and all she could see was my mom was watching the kids, and we would like go out and hang out. So when she came back to Corpus with me, it was a whole new just a whole new life. And she kind of was like, what is happening? Like, and to me, that was normal. So I think that was our probably for me, I think that was our biggest problem, was we started out that way and just kind of jumped into it because we knew we wanted to be together.
Yeah.
So we went to Vegas and got married.
Wow.
And then we had a bunch of crazy stuff happen right after we got married, like 2 weeks after.
What are some of the crazy things? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. But what were some of those items?
Well, like just behavioral problems.
With our oldest. Yeah, our oldest.
It's my stepson, and he's kind of diagnosed with ODD, oppositional defiance disorder.
Yeah.
And like I am like a big kid, but I don't know how to like be a disciplinarian that well.
Sure.
Kind of ran from that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Hard.
Yeah, he was having a lot of problems getting him into therapy, just kind of consumed our life. And we didn't know how to deal with anything else. And we kept pushing our problems to the side. So that was really difficult.
And I was like not sure why the dad like really wasn't involved that much. And it was confusing.
Yeah.
Sure. So you had to be the mom and the dad because his dad was not in the picture.
Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you guys met long distance, or you dated long distance, it sounds like. And so that's a common experience where when couples are dating long distance, they see the best of each other, because when you're together, it's like this, you're suspended from everyday life stress, right? And it's like you're on this vacation when you're together almost, because it's not your day-to-day life. And then when couples finally experience day-to-day living together, then a lot of that stress can hit full speed. So it sounds like that's kind of what you guys went through.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be with her, but I didn't really want kids. Like, that sounds really weird, but I didn't at all. We were like opposite.
So you each came with a child into the relationship, is that right?
No, I had two. Our daughter, she's 5 now. She was less than 1 when we met. So
with a donor. So
interesting. Yeah. Okay. So huge adjustment, being a new parent, co-parenting, new relationship, new state. It's a lot of change.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So what's a lesson or two that you guys learned from all that stress?
Probably that our marriage is more important than everything else going on. Even though, you have a whole bunch of stress and life happens, you have to put your marriage first. And I was not doing that. I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't really understand. We have all this stuff going on. Like, we should both know, that our marriage will come first when it's able to. And that's not good to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So putting your marriage first. And what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? If I were like a fly on your wall watching, how would I know you guys were putting your marriage first?
I make her.
Drop some threats.
I'm like, well, not like that, but I just say, like, if we, like, I like consistency a lot. And so we do one thing each. We pick one thing. It was like kind of my idea that, like, I like consistency. So like your heart, head talk, like, I want that to be the first thing that happens when she gets home before all the chaos might start. Mm-hmm. And so that's what makes me feel like it's first. I just picked that because, like, I need to know that that's the first thing that's going to happen.
Sure. Yeah. So for everyone listening, the head heart check, as a reminder, is a daily routine where you share your head, which is your agenda, everything you did. Then your heart is mad, sad, glad, or fear, and why. And some people are really in touch with that stuff and it comes right out. Other people, they're not quite sure what they're feeling and why. And so it just takes some practice. It's like a muscle. The more you try to get in touch with yourself, what you're feeling, the more you learn about yourself and the more there is to share. So good.
The dog.
What's that?
The dog is biting.
Oh, yeah. I can't see your dog, so it's no problem.
Oh gosh.
Oh, there he is. So you guys have 2 kids. So how do you prioritize that emotional intimacy right after work, even though you have 2 kids? What does that look like?
Well, because like they get home from school and like I'm home, my business is at home. So I kind of get everything situated and make sure like so when she gets home, they know that for like this amount of time, they are in their room, like doing their homework, or not the little one. She like activities on Leapfrog or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just get that like 15 minutes like by ourselves all the way, and which is hard, but they're good at it.
They know, that when I come home, it's our time to talk, and that's important. So it took a while to get it down, but it took a while for me to actually, do it right when I get home. So I get distracted. I'm like, I want to change and I have other stuff to do, but it's important to her that right when I come home, we have our talk.
She does get to change.
Yeah.
Well, now I get to change. It definitely took a while. Basically, because I really didn't understand, like, why don't we just talk whenever we're able to? But it's important to her that we do that, and it makes her feel like I'm listening and that I care. So that's really important for us.
Great. Yeah, that's a good example of a connecting ritual, right? Where all couples need connecting rituals on some level where they know, like, oh yeah, that's our time to connect. That's our time that we do this. That time that we do that. Otherwise, life is so chaotic and hectic. If there's no structure or intentionality, most couples drift apart just because there's no connecting rituals to keep them together.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened. Because I'm not a very consistent person. I'm just kind of like, whatever happens, happens. And she's super, OCD and very consistent with everything. So we're completely opposite. So it's hard.
Yeah, meeting in the middle is the key, right? Trying to find some compromise on that. Yeah, good. So next question here. Let's see. Number 4, what's helped you stay in love or fall back in love in your marriage?
Falling back in love, it really came with work first, listening to your podcast and wanting to change and put our marriage first. And once we felt that we were trying and being more, communicating more, we felt closer. We were really distant from each other just because we weren't communicating anything. So once we started doing that, I know I felt a lot closer to her, and I actually felt like I wanted to talk more. So that was, that for me.
Sure. What about you, Marlo?
We had to start talking and listening to podcasts, and I found you because we didn't, I don't even know, because I never met anybody who doesn't ever want to talk.
Yeah, everyone's different with how much they communicate.
And I was getting kind of abrupt, probably attacking, because I wanted to talk so bad, but not just about anything. I wanted to know her. I felt like I didn't.
Sure.
So
you want a meaningful conversation.
And so since we've been taking the steps with the podcast, we have a lot more, but the ones we have done, it's helped a lot to be able to get to know her, because I felt sort of like I was with a stranger.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she did too, because I was probably being crazy.
Yeah.
Forceful about it when that isn't her way to get. I wasn't doing the right thing to get her to talk. I was being
yeah, that's what happens, right? When our love buckets are low, when our needs aren't being met, it brings out the worst in us, and then the claws come out for a lot of people, and then we get less of what we want. So it creates a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm unhappy because my needs aren't met, and now I'm acting like a teenager, right? Because I'm so upset, and now you want to give me my needs even less.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, she was going the other way, and then the more she went the other way, I was coming at her.
Yeah.
What? This cannot happen.
Sure.
And so, actually, we're not just trying to like give you a big head, but I like found your podcast and she really loved it out of all of them and started listening to them on her own also. And so like that really made me feel a lot better, like, because I just need to see that there is like trying going on. Yeah. That was it. I mean, 'cause I'm easy to keep me quiet, but I wasn't when you weren't doing anything.
Yeah. Show me you care, right? Your actions are the biggest apology.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you found my podcast because my podcast is relatively new and not very well known. Not many people know about it. How did you guys find my podcast?
It came up. I looked up for like the top podcasts. I mean, I investigate everything, and like what made me listen to it though when I found it was just because it was just you, and like it. Normally, we would probably have listened to like a female, but because you are the first guy we've ever like listened to, but what you were saying made sense, and like how you do like examples about you and your wife, it was really helpful. But yeah, you came up as a top podcast.
Huh. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Maybe it's because what I was looking for, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think on Google, it appears relatively high, but within the Apple podcast, it's not ranked really high yet. So maybe.
Okay. Yeah. No, I did Google.
Okay. That's probably where you found it. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, all relationships are relationships, right? And so when you think about like relationship truths and what helps relationships, it's universal. No matter what kind of relationship you're in, the truths are the truths as far as like what helps relationships thrive and what breaks them down.
Right.
Yeah. What was it like for you guys listening to a male talk about relationships?
It was a big deal for me. I'm older than her. And so, I mean, I've been in therapy on my own because I wanted to. I've always picked female. Like, I don't know why, I just did. Like, so sure. I just felt like maybe it was more relatable. But come to find out, not so much. So, I don't know. It's been really helpful. And like, when you talk, a lot of the stuff you say sounds sort of like me, and your wife sounds like her more. I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that kind of like threw me off a little bit.
Well, I think that's what helps me a lot is like your examples and not just talking, but actually giving real examples. Because yeah, like she said, y'all are a lot like, well, it sounds like y'all are a lot kind of like us on some of the things. So it's helpful for me to actually hear like people's emotions and wants and needs, because until we started listening to you, I really was not aware of anything. You know, I didn't know anything, my wants, needs, and I'm still working on it. I think that's a big deal with both of us, because she's been in therapy a lot, you know, growing up from her childhood and stuff. And I've never been in therapy. I've never talked to anybody about anything like that. So it's really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when we hear other people talking and sharing and telling examples and stories, we can identify, right?
When you do the
yeah, when I do the role plays back and forth. And you guys have listened to a lot of the tools, so you probably see me do that a lot. I do that.
Yeah. I always tell her, I said, no, he's like pretending like he's his wife.
Right. Okay, last question here. So what final pearl of wisdom would you like to share with other couples?
I mean, we both picked something different. I mean, I'm like, my big thing is that it doesn't matter like who you're married to or whatever, stuff is still going to come up, and people do not believe that anymore. And that is so true. Like, you can move on to somebody different and you're going to have probably the same or other things come up just as much. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So
that's such a good point. And that's one of the benefits of long-term covenant-based relationships because your partner is a mirror, right? And so they're going to highlight your weaknesses and your shortcomings, whether you want them to or not. And so then it becomes growth opportunities if we can view it that way, right? But a lot of people, they end the relationship and they move on to the next one, and they just bring their bag of wounds and scars to that next relationship, and they never get refined. And so that's one of the benefits of staying in those long-term relationships, is we get refined if we can view it that way, much more than if we're jumping from relationship to relationship.
And it helps like all your relationships, like you've said before, like not just with who you're with, like your family, your friends, and being able to have like better relationships with other people also, like when you better yourself.
Yeah. What about you, Ashley?
Well, that too. I think it's really important. Like I get in kind of the same routine where I think things are good. And so maybe I'll just not want to talk that day because I feel like things are really good. Not for her. So the main thing I think is the best tip is, being consistent and sticking to something, every single day. Because she made what you said the other day is kind of like pain management. If you have chronic pain and you don't stay on top of it, it's going to keep getting worse. So even if you feel like it's okay in the moment, you still have to be working on it. And that's probably the main thing I've learned.
You like have a good run, and you're putting the work on the back burner, and then it just like blows up again all of a sudden.
It'll be like one day we don't talk about something and it just escalates and we have to kind of start all over.
Right.
That's how it feels sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, this reminds me of how marriage is alive, right? I mean, marriage is a living organism. So if you have like a plant that you need to water every day and you skip a day of watering, what happens to the plant, right? It kind of starts to shrivel, and then you skip 2 days and it really starts to wilt and the leaves start to turn brown. So it's very similar to marriage, where it's this daily tending to, and that doesn't mean there's going to be seasons and days where you can't, right, as much as you want to. However, when that becomes a pattern, anything that's alive starts to wilt and suffer, and it just can't take it very long without tending to it.
It takes more effort to get it back to where it was.
That's right. Like, oh my gosh, it's almost dead. Like now we got to really tend to this and bring it back. Yeah, good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. So we're going to end here with the We're in Love screen. So this is Ashley and Marlo, and they've been married for 2 years. They've been through a lot of stress with relocation, with having 2 kids, learning how to foster a relationship, how to stay in love. So please join me as we celebrate them as they do a We're in Love scream. You guys can count it down.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. We're in love!
All right, guys. That's great. Thanks again. I really appreciate you taking the time to be part of the podcast. This will probably be aired sometime today or tomorrow. And so who knows? Lots of people are going to listen to this and they'll be inspired just to hear again that they're not alone, that they can relate with your story. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with them.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Dr. Wyatt Show. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to click the 5 stars and leave a review. The Dr. Wyatt Show is here for your questions. If you have marriage questions, be sure to email me. It's info@drwyattfisher.com. Also, if the podcast has made an impact on your relationship, be sure to email me as well. I'd love to interview you on the show, because your story will inspire countless others. And remember, your marriage is alive. So if you care for it and nurture it, it will grow. But if you neglect it, it will wilt and die. The choice is up to you. Take care.